and welcome back to the Girly Girl Bookworm. So today I have the beginning part of my April wrap-up. It's definitely a lot smaller than my wrap-ups have been so far this year, but it is what it is. Sorry if we went to the science center today, so my hand has the stamp from it. I realized as I went to go take my thumbnail, I'm like, that's really attractive. Something exciting though is hopefully I should be back to like having not better content, but like I could film whenever I want now. Not whenever I want, but Sydney is no longer in this room that's attached to this wall. She has moved across the hallway in her big girl room. So that way when Sawyer is ready to move into this room, it's already ready for him. So now whether she naps or not, she's not here. So like I don't have to worry about like keeping her up. So I'm filming this at night and she's already in bed for the night, but I can film because she's not in here, which is just like glorious to say. So hopefully that means that I can kind of be back to being a bit consistent on making sure that videos are up every time because I don't have to worry about filming around nap time. So that is great. So like I said, I've been a little slumpy this month, I think just because I got really caught up in organizing and cleaning, and this week has been Patrick's April break. So we have literally gone and done something like every day this week. Just trying to enjoy every moment of it. So I did kind of like slump out a little bit, but I think that the rest of the month will be much better. So let's just dive in. So I'm going to start with the books that I mentioned that I was finishing at the end of March. So I finished The Dating Plan by Sarah Desi. I still haven't figured out how to say her name, which is awful. This is technically the second book in a series, but they're companion books, so you don't really need to read them in order. I can kind of guess based off of reading this one who the first book was about. But we are following our main character, and she is kind of somebody who like never really sticks to something for long. She's currently working with a company that she actually could see herself staying with long term, but she really doesn't like to get herself attached because when she was younger, she was supposed to go to senior prom with her brother's like best friend that she like really actually secretly liked, and he stood her up, and she's kind of hated it ever since, and she's kind of like dated men kind of habitually where she'll like date a guy and then like stop and then date a guy and stop, and because she's too scared to get attached. And in walks him like 10 years later, and his grandfather has passed on, and part of a deal in the will means that he needs to get thanks to be just my potty. So he needs to get married in order to fulfill this thing, in order to get part of the will. And so they kind of strike up a deal that like she'll marry him because that will get her family off her back for trying to get her married off, and they'll get his family off his back because he'll do what he needs to do for the will. Kind of they'll be able to work this out together. I was enjoying the beginning part, and I ended up going with 3.5 stars because I just felt like a lot of the book got really repetitive and just like nothing was really happening. There wasn't a whole ton of growth. I just felt like they fell into this relationship, and she went from like hating him to really liking him really quickly. And I felt like they never really had it out. Like she like hated him, and I felt like they never really had a full, like I know why he like stood her up and things like that, but like I just feel like I don't know, I just felt like it needed to be more dramatic. I think I said that very similarly with like Frick Island and Fair Catch, where like I just felt like I wanted it to be a little more dramatic. I don't know if I'm just being dramatic and want more drama. I don't know. But the other thing too was like she kept being portrayed as this like nerdy girl, and like to get their point across of her being nerdy, they would constantly mention like whenever she would get like a romantic moment with him that she was wearing like Marvel underwear. It would be like, I have a Hulk bra on today, or like I have Iron Man bra, and it's like, why? Like, why? Like, it was fun, like kind of funny the first time it happened, but then when it kept happening, I was like, this doesn't need to happen. So I just didn't feel like I loved it as much as like I wanted to. Still cute, just nothing that I really fell in love with. But something I did fall in love with was A More Perfect Union by Tammy Huff. Now, this was a book that was recommended to me through Instagram for the Instagram challenge of reading 12 books by the end of the year. And I accidentally started this one in March because it was mostly for my April TBR. So I only let myself read the first 50 pages, and then the rest I read in April. I loved this book. I gave this book 5 stars. It's her debut novel, and it definitely won't be the last book I read by her if she continues to write books. This is actually kind of modeled off of her family, which I think is so intriguing. It's one of those things that you're like, wow, I love to see that, but I also hate to see that because I hate that this is part of her family's history. That's just part of the awful part. So we're following 3 perspectives. We are following a man who is coming to America from Ireland. He's trying to avoid the famine. He's had a lot of loss over there. And then he comes to America. He becomes a blacksmith, and he ends up trying to find work. So he runs down to the south, and he gets work at a plantation where our main character, the woman character, I forgot what her name is. Not Mabel, Sarah. And Sarah is new to this plantation, and they really spark a bond. And then we're also following Maple, who has been on the plantation for a while, and she's been separated from her family, and she kind of hates this relationship that's been going on with them. And guys, I loved this book. I could not get enough. The chapters are super short, which makes it a really fast read. So I know historical fiction sometimes can be really daunting, but this does not read that way at all. I just loved it. I loved the characters. I loved how it all played out. It was tense. I was angry. I was sad. I was happy. I felt all the feelings with this one, and I ended up giving this one 5 stars. I also finished How to Kill Your Best Friend by Lexi Elliott. I think I went with 3 stars as well for this one. This was one that I started and then I put down to actually read A More Perfect Union, and then re-picked this one up, and I forced myself to finish it that day because it felt like that type of book that I was going to put down and then I was never going to pick back up. So I knew I wanted to finish it because I wanted to see how it played out, and by the end I was definitely more connected with it. So I'm glad that I finished it. We're following this friend group. We're following 2 women who are flying to this island off the coast of Asia, I believe, and they're there for their friend's funeral. She went swimming and drowned, and they never really found her body. And so they're looking into that, but creepy things are happening to them. So we're did they actually murder their friend? What's going on? It was okay. The very beginning, it was just so indistinguishable. I could not tell the difference between the 2 friends, and I felt we weren't really given a huge backstory. So I really didn't connect to them, and I was I don't know how you're related. There's a lot of characters that we didn't get perspectives from. So then I was who are you? So overall, it was okay. The ending was a meh twist. I didn't find it all that shocking. I didn't really make a prediction for the ending, but I also could have predicted the ending if I was actively trying to do so. It was just okay. It was just a mediocre thriller in my opinion. So that was 3 stars. And then for the books that I have completed actually in April, I listened to the audiobook for The Death of Vivek Ogee by I'm not going to pronounce that right, so I'm just going to show you because I don't want to butcher it. This was a really interesting audiobook. It is a cast narration, which I always love. And this is following a family where one day his mother opens her front door, and there he is dead, naked. They have no idea how he got there. They have no idea how he was murdered. And we're following different family members, and they're kind of dealing with the process of trying to figure out why he's dead and coming to terms with him being dead, but they're also reflecting on their past relationship with Vivek. So it was really interesting. I don't even know how to put my thoughts into words about this one. I still haven't even written out my review, my written out review that I do on Instagram and Goodreads, because my thoughts are just kind of all over the place. There's not much that I don't like I said, I don't have words to describe this story. It was just very interesting to see how different people perceived him and how some people accepted him and some people didn't. And just how through his death, they almost found life through him. It's very impactful and really important. And I thought it was really, really interesting. And I don't know how to put my thoughts into words, but I did give this one 4 stars, and I highly recommend you listen to the audiobook if you are interested in the story, because like I said, cast narration, top notch. And it does take place in Nigeria, which I think also adds something else to the story. Then I read The Love of My Life by Rosie Walsh. I was actually able to borrow this through Libby, the Kindle copy, and I really liked this one. So this is Rosie Walsh's second book that I've read by her. She wrote Ghosted years ago and then never came out with anything new until this one. And this one I find really interesting because it's really hard to nail down the genre for it. This book is split into 3 parts. We are following the first part where Leo's wife is battling cancer and somebody they know goes missing, and all of a sudden, like, some things are happening where Leo starts realizing that his wife is not who he thought she was. They have a little girl named Ruby, and so like he's starting to kind of unravel all of this stuff. So it's really mysterious and really trying to figure out what's going on, who is Emma, what's Emma's story. And then the second part is really focusing on Emma's true story of the past. So we kind of go back to the past to figure out her real story. And then we come back in the third part to kind of piece it all together in this mystery of where that woman who I talked about in the beginning, she had gone missing, the relationship, there's some journal entries, there's lots of different things in this book. It's very emotional. There's lots of trigger warnings for this one. So if you are somebody who's easily triggered, especially when it comes to like infertility and pregnancy and motherhood, definitely probably steer clear of this one. But this one was really interesting and really intense, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. I read Second Chance at Us by Stacey Travis. I was able to get the Kindle copy for free on Amazon. I don't know why it was free. I think the author happened to just make it free when I happened to look, which is funny because I would have read it that way without purchasing it, and I'm kind of mad because I kind of don't want this one for my shelf, so I'm kind of annoyed. But I did read this one on Kindle. I will say, if you are somebody like me, I like to read my book, and I also like on my Kindle, but I also like to know where I am physically in the book if I own it. The book physically does not match the Kindle book. I think she ordered chapters or something when she printed this one versus the Kindle. I do know that there's a newer cover, and I don't know if the newer cover has the same issue or if this is just like this one and the new one. I don't know. Long story short, this is following 2 people. This almost had Eleanor and Gray vibes in the beginning. Her father has just recently died, and he kind of swoops in and takes her on this like whirlwind adventure day to like get her mind off of it. And she really thinks that they're going to have this like full-blown love story, and he completely like ghosts her, doesn't pay attention to her in school, ignores her. And then one day she walks in as she's a nurse in a labor and delivery ward, and there he is. And it's kind of their second chance at romance. And again, this was one that I just felt like it wasn't really fleshed out enough. I will say that I think I don't know which way I would have preferred. In this copy, it alternated between the past and the current timeline. And in the Kindle copy, it was like current timeline, past, all the past, and then all the future. So I don't know what I would have preferred it to be alternated or finding out all the past, but like because we got the taste of the future, I wanted the future to come back. So like I think I would have liked it interwoven. If that makes sense. I just felt like it just like wasn't fleshed out, and it was another case of like they just melded right back into each other's lives way too easily. Like there was never any discussion, like there was no intense moment of like this is why we weren't together. It just fell a little flat for me, and I didn't love it, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. Then after that, I read The Three Mothers, and this is a nonfiction book, and I read this one as an audiobook through Libby. I was so excited when this came through. Now, this is a story following the mothers of Martin Luther King Jr., of Malcolm X, and James Baldwin. We are following the story of their mothers. And what I thought was really interesting about this book is it really interweaves, like it doesn't just teach you about their mother. Sorry, Sawyer's about to walk past the room. So sorry if you can hear him. Well, he's not walking. He's leaving. It really follows the women as they move through history. And as they move through history, you're also learning the history of what was going on around them. So I thought that it was really interesting because it really just brings history to life. So not only are we learning about them and what made them them and what made their kids who they were, but we're also learning about the history, which is why the mothers were the way they were. It was just like such an interesting, almost like domino effect. And I really liked this one. I think that the audiobook, again, is the way to go with this one because the author reads it. And I have to say, whenever I read nonfiction, I love when the author reads the book themselves. So that was spot on. And I really enjoyed that one. And I gave that one 4 stars. Then I read Cover Story by Susan Rigetti. Now, I'm sorry that this is glaring. This is a library copy. This one I had been seeing everywhere on Instagram, and I kind of put myself on that book buying ban. So I decided that I was going to see if the library had it on hold. And I assumed I wouldn't get it because it's like a brand new release, and normally I have to wait for brand new releases. And I think I was the first person to read this because it is like absolutely like brand new. So in this story, it is totally mixed media. So emails, texts, documents, like there is no story in here. So if you're looking for a book that's going to have regular story, this one is not for you. And this one is kind of a steal, not necessarily like a steal, but like a story that is inspired, I guess you can say, by, I forgot what the Netflix version is, but my book is called My Friend Anna. So I think, is the Netflix special just Anna? Finding Anna. No, something about Anna. I don't remember. But the heiress who basically tricked everybody into believing she was the heiress, and she was not one. So we are following this one where Laura is really excited to get her summer internship at Elle magazine, and she is going up to New York. She has not told her parents that she has lost her NYU scholarship, and so she's trying to figure out what she's going to do to be able to stay at NYU. If she can stay at NYU, she does not want to tell her parents, like I said, that she lost it, but she does have this internship at Elle, so she's like so excited. And when she's working there, she ends up meeting one of the writers for the magazine, Kat Wolf, and they start this bond. And as you could probably guess, Kat Wolf is not who we think she is. And guys, this book was so good. I gave it 4 stars. It's really fast paced. I was able to read it really quickly when I was able to sit down and read it. And the ending left me shook. I don't know why I didn't see it coming, but I did not see it coming, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Like, I was like, the whole book, I was like, this will be 4 stars, and then I had that ending, and I was like, no, this is 4.5. So definitely worth it. If you like that type of story, definitely check this one out. And then I have recently DNF'd The Lioness by Chris Bolahan, I think you can say his name. I don't know. He is the same author who wrote The Flight Attendant. I had this book through NetGalley, and I couldn't do it. I loved the synopsis for this one, where it's these Hollywood starlets that are there for a honeymoon getaway with their friends. They're on a safari, and all of a sudden they get attacked by these basic murderers. And it's set in, I think, the 1960s. And I thought I was going to love this one. And I was 30% in, and that's basically all I knew. All I knew was wedding party, getting attacked. That's all I knew. Still at 30% in. Each chapter follows a different character. And in the beginning, there is a character list that I felt like I constantly needed to go back to because I had no idea who anybody was. It just felt so isolated where I could not keep track of each character and how they were related. I don't know what was wrong with me, but I just could not do it. And within the chapter, it would kind of flash back to the past so much to the point where I was getting really blurred and really confused with like what was happening now and what was happening then. And it just did not work for me. So I ended up DNFing it, which made me super bummed. And then I'm currently listening to Educated by Tara Westover. I'm not very far in at all. I barely started it. But I'm listening to this one on audiobook through Libby. And then I am physically reading Love and Other Disasters. I got 50 pages in, and then I put it down to read Cover Story because that was only a 2-week loan, so I wanted to make sure I got to that one. So hopefully I'll be able to continue this one. So yeah, like I said, not as many as I typically have had read by the beginning of beginning half of a month, but hopefully we'll see if the second half is better. I would rather take memories with my family than try to shove a bunch of books down my throat. So I'm pretty pleased. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys really soon. Bye, everybody.